The last 2 years on the channel, we've explored some of the biggest single season collapses in AFL history. In this video today, let's now turn the tables and discover a handful of the biggest single season turnarounds of the AFL era. The teams featured in this video today had no more than 2 wins after round 7, but were able to get their campaign back on track and push on for potential premiership glory. We'll begin in the early 90s. 1992 saw the West Coast Eagles take home their first ever AFL flag. Led by Mick Malthouse, the Eagles' second half blitzed the Cats in the grand final. Norm Smith medalist Peter Matera had 5 and Peter 𝐓𝐴𝐸 booted 6. Many forget, however, that this premiership side weren't all guns blazing throughout the season. The side's start to 1992 had some hiccups, notching up a 2-win, 1 draw and 3 loss record after the first 7 rounds. But West Coast were able to turn around their season significantly, winning 8 of their last 10 home and away season games to surge to a top 4 spot. Then followed an unbeaten finals run to premiership glory, knocking off the Hawks by 13 points in week 1 and Geelong by 38 points in the second week, which gave them a week off to play the Cats again. Remembering this was back when the McIntyre finals system was in place, a bit of a strange format when looking at it today. The win for the Eagles meant the Cats got a double chance in a prelim final. They beat Footscray by 10 goals, then a week later, the footy-world witnessed West Coast collect their maiden cup. This path of success was also a similar tale for the very next season. 1993 also had its early season struggler of Essendon. Nicknamed the Baby Bombers, this side boasted some talent. Anthony Danaher, Paul Salmon and ageing Tim Watson. Let's not forget a particular 19-year-old who go on to win the Brownlow medal that very season, of 𝐓𝐡𝐿 𝐌𝐚𝐭𝐞𝐬. Just like the year before, however, the premiership winner also started off their season with 2 wins, 1 draw and 3 losses after round 7. The games included an opening season loss to the reigning premiers of the Eagles, a 39-goal draw against the Blues, and an almost 100-point belting against the lowly Sydney Swans at the time. So a bit of everything to kick off the year. Statistically though, it still deserves a spot in this video. Having issues to find a consistent gear, being as low as 11th almost a third of the way through the season, to then go on and finish top of the table, followed with a Premiership Cup against their bitter rivals of the Blues, is certainly a respectable turnaround. Let's now go over a side who only managed to notch up 4 wins after 15 rounds, yet still managed to play finals football. The 1995 Brisbane Bears were the team to do it. The young club was showing promising signs of a competitive side in the build-up to the 95 season. And this was the year where the Bears made their first finals appearance, albeit through a remarkable late season recovery. After round 15, the Bears only had 4 wins and were third last on the ladder. You knew things were pointing south when coach at the time Robert Walls announced his resignation, effective at the end of the season. The Bears kick-started their surge in round 16, trailing Hawthorn by 45 points at 3/4 time, but mounted an unbelievable final quarter comeback to win by 7 points. Still is to this day the largest final quarter comeback in league history. Brisbane then won 5 of its 6 remaining matches in the home and away season, including wins against Richmond and Essendon, who were both in the top 4, to just sneak into the 8. The Bears were eliminated in the first week, but not disgraced, after losing its first ever final to eventual premiers Carlton by 13 points. A pretty obscure season, all in all, if I do say so myself. Continuing in chronological order, 1997 had 3 sides who were 2-6, 1-4 and 2-3. But all these 3 teams made the finals. 2 of them included both grand finalists of St Kilda and Adelaide. At the end of round 5, the Saints only had 1 win on the board. Eventual premiers Adelaide couldn't find a consistent gear early on too, managing 2 wins after round 6. Just like 2 years prior, the newly merged Brisbane Lions again found themselves in a hole early on, with a 2-6 record. They were able, however, to transform their position, going 8-2 between rounds 9 and 18. Sitting in 5th place on 40 points at the end of round 18, thanks to percentage, it was a logjam between 5th and 10th. Little room for error would be a necessity if a team were to play finals. But in amazing fashion, Brisbane didn't win a single game out of their remaining 4, yet still made the top 8. A round 20 draw to Port Adelaide was enough to keep the first-year AFL side at bay via high percentage. Even though the Lions went out in the first week of finals, it's still a crazy campaign to look at retrospectively. Pretty much an early collapse, then a big turnaround, followed with a mini collapse once again, but were able to maintain a spot in the 8 thanks to the teams below them not winning for 4 rounds in a row. Let's now go over a few fast fires. The Bombers in 1998 lost 4 in a row early on, slumping to a 2-5 record. They managed to go 10-5 post round 7 and sneak into the finals at 8th spot. 2004 saw the up-and-coming Eagles make September, but had to do it the hard way. From going 2-5 in the bottom 3 to then winning 8 of their last 10 games, including a 5-game winning streak, heading into finals at 7th. They lost to the Swans in the Elam final, but this kick-started one of the more underrated rivalries of the 2000s in the years to come. The reigning premiers in 2005 of Port Adelaide went down to the Eagles by 117 points in round 10. This gave them a 3-win, 1-draw and 6-loss record, with nearly 10% shaved off their total percentage from that loss. Nevertheless, the pair were able to win enough in the second half of the year, going 8-4 post round 10 to finish in 8th. Unlike some of the teams we've gone over already, Port were able to win a final, belting North Melbourne away by 87 points. Hawthorn in 2010 started off their year on a sour note, holding a 1-6 record. Not wanting to miss out on finals again, just like the year prior, the 2008 premiers were able to turn their record into a winning one come finals, ending up finishing in 7th with 12 wins, a draw and 9 losses. Finally, 1 win, a draw and 5 losses was what the Saints were facing in 2011. The back-to-back grand finalists in that season were able to turn their campaign around and surge their way up to 6th. They'd lose to the Swans in the elimination final, but still a good one to include. A team that had 1 win after 8 rounds, but were able to turn their season around and get a home final. In 2014, the Richmond Tigers were coming off a disappointing Elam final loss to the 9th place Blues. Expectations were high heading into the new season, with the list boasting an influx of players in or about to hit their prime, like Trent Cotchin, Dusty, Jack Riewoldt, Alex Rance, Dylan Grimes, Basha Hooley, all being 25 or under. The team, however, couldn't get a wriggle on during the first half of the season. Whilst playing a slow style of footy, Richmond slumped to as low as 16th in round 14, with a 3-10 win-loss record. This also included an embarrassing defeat to the hands of cellar dwellers Melbourne by 3 goals, kicking 9 goals 20 themselves. Post their loss to the Swans in round 14, Richmond simply needed everything to fall right if they'd be any chance of finals football, given their place in the bottom 4. Through a change of style and how they played, Richmond surged their way up the ladder. They won their last 9 home and away season games, including the final round's ball over 3-point win against minor premiers Sydney in Sydney to lock in a place in the 8. Players like Dustin Martin broke out and became an unstoppable force forward of centre. Alex Rance collected his first All-Australian blazer. Midfield duo Trent Cotchin and Brett Deledio were also highly influential on the Tigers' staggering run. Unfortunately though, Richmond's 2014 legacy will always be remembered with a crushing 10-goal Elam final loss away to Port Adelaide. Nevertheless, for a side being bottom 4 in the second half of the season, being in the race for the spoon, to then win every game possible with no room for error and make the top 8 is pretty remarkable. For the final one in today's video, we've perhaps saved the best for last. When you lose a grand final, a lot of predictions are made for the team to bounce back and be up there the very next season. It was safe to say, however, that no one expected the Sydney Swans in 2017 to start off the season 0-6, 0 wins and 6 losses. Not only was the team hurt with some injuries, but it looked at the time that they just simply forgot how to win. Their loss in round 6 to eventual bottom 4 side Carlton seemed like the final nail in the coffin. The side's confidence was shot. Pretty much every AFL fan had the Swans written off. An 8-goal haul to Buddy helped his side get their first win on the board over the Lions. And in what little to none expected, it was like this team rose from the dead and began to win. Sydney's confidence, pressure and contested game grew as the weeks went on. Horse and his troops had to practically treat every game like an elim final. And after starting 0-6, the Swans went 14-2 to lock in a home final. Their second half of the season surge was remarkable. Wins to top sides that year like Richmond, Geelong and Adelaide, all away from home, had fans and pundits believing that this side could genuinely go all the way. Alas, it wasn't meant to be, crushing and burning in a 40-point plus loss to the Cats in the semi-final. Nevertheless, to end up 14-8 after starting the season 0-6 is a terrific achievement, one that we might not see again for some time, and personally, one of my favourite ever seasons as a supporter. And just a quick one to finish it off. I've went over it a numerous amount of times already in other videos, but last year's Brisbane Lions just has to have a mention. Injuries galore, pundits and people saying Fagan should be sacked, sitting in 13th after round 14, also having a 2-5 record at one stage. The Lions early on looked lost. However, Brisbane blitzed their way up the ladder in the second half of the season. Veterans like Neil and Dunkley upped their output significantly, as the side enjoyed a remarkable finals run, topping it off with a demolition job in the grand final. A truly special and resilient season. And of course, got to include last year's Hawthorn campaign as well. From starting off 0-5 with the coach and players under a significant amount of pressure, to revitalising their brand of football and winning a final, it was an outstanding year from Hawthorn in 2024. A side that grew with confidence and team morale. They set the benchmark in many different stat areas in the back half of last year. And who knows what's in store for the near future. So overall, there are a handful of some of the biggest AFL single season turnarounds in the AFL era since 1990. Hopefully you lot enjoyed today's video. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you a specific fan of a few of these teams that I mentioned in this video today? What do you remember from these specific seasons? Some of them just remarkable campaigns and a fun one to research for this video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe everybody if you did go on to enjoy. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.